I hope you all have seen the topic Deaf Education History Part 2. There are many famous people like Abbé Charles Michael de Leppe who have contributed their time towards the deaf education history. This video explains about the strike happened in Gallaudet University for deaf president. If you missed the previous episodes, the link is in the description below. In 1864, the Deaf Rights Act was signed by the President Abraham Lincoln. The act helped to start the first deaf college in Washington, D.C. The college was named the Gallaudet University in the name of the founder. At the starting, over 40% of the staff were deaf teachers. Throughout the year 1800, there had a debate on oral deaf education and sign language. For example, the International Conference for Deaf, the Milan Conference, was held in Paris for the first time, and the second was held in Europe in the year 1880. In that meeting, majority agreed that oral education is good for deaf, and the sign language was asked to ban. This was fully supported by Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone. After the conference, oral education continued till 1927. The oral education for the deaf was at the peak. The percentage of the deaf teachers, 40%, dropped to only 15% in the college. In 1960, a man named William Stock started doing research on the language of the deaf. And called the name American Sign Language. wrote the first linguistic book on ASL. Four years later, in 1964, the Congress finally issued a report and stated that oral deaf education was labeled a failure. Later, in 1972, development of manually coded systems began, which still use English word order because people were not fully convinced that ASL was the way to go. This movement started in 1988 at Gallaudet University. The students went on strike and demanded the president to be replaced by a deaf president. The final date of the history was to bring up the deaf president, now for the university board. In the end, they want in their final statement to be a model for deaf education for years to come. The statement was, deaf people can do anything except hearing. Today, you and me was communicating in our own sign language without any disturbance. Because our friends have struggled and made history. They all educated us and helped to communicate in signs. I am proud of being deaf in the world.